FeneVision Web and how to use it. Today we'll be focusing on demonstrating the functionality of Polaris Windows and Doors FeneVision Web online ordering platform. This video is going to be broken down into sections related to the different focus areas of using the website. Those sections are logging in and understanding the dashboard screen, accessing the menu and all its functionality, creating a quote with different parts and options, specialty part review, including opening designer parts with mold units, converting a quote to an order, administrator setup functions and actions, and then we'll have a final review. Today I'll be logging into our web platform known as FeneVision Web using one of our branch customer accounts. So this is the dashboard, or I'm sorry, this is the login screen when you navigate to the website, which is up here in the browser bar at weborders.polariswindows.com/web/login. So I have my credentials already entered and I push login. And the first thing you see when you log in is the dashboard screen. The dashboard screen is split into two different sections with all of your open orders at the top. Then if you scroll down, here's all your quotes that have been entered that have not yet been converted into orders. You can see statuses of your open orders in the status column up here at the top. In process means the order has been acknowledged and it's in the process of being scheduled. In production means exactly that, it's in production. And if you see any that say only received, like this one here, that means we have the order or we entered the order for you, but that order has not yet been acknowledged. So if we look at this one as an example that says received, click on the order number hyperlink here. You can see that this act date field is blank, which means the order has not been acknowledged and it will not be scheduled. If your orders are not acknowledged, they won't be set to go to production, put into a schedule, or released to the production floor. So you always want to check to make sure that your open orders say in process. To navigate back to the dashboard, you can just click on the Polaris logo here at the top, or you can open up the menu here with the hamburger icon and navigate the dashboard that way. So most of this customer's orders are in process or in production, which is what you want to see. If an order is complete, it'll tell you it's complete. It just means that it's complete and it will be shipping to you. Some of these fields at the top include the date, the PO number, the customer reference, the dollar value, the estimated delivery date, the status, and the customer that the order is for. The date field is the date that the order was entered or created. The estimated delivery date field is the delivery date that we estimate based upon the lead time of all items on the order. Accessing the menu and all of its functionality. To access the menu, you open the hamburger icon. You click on the hamburger icon here in the top left corner. You have options for dashboard, search, quote maintenance, documents, orders, which is a drop-down field. You can search order history, or you can look up purchase history. And then you have a setup field in the menu, which is also a drop-down where you can set up customers, terms, ship via, pricing, including tables and schedules, company information, and user information. I'll be going over the setup menu towards the end when we review administrator functions. But for now, a quick demonstration of the search functionality, Let me find a quote number here, or an order number here. 1745705. So we search, you can search by quote number or by order number. 1744705. Oops. You can hit search and it'll bring that order up once it finds a result. If you click the more drop down here, in addition to seeing the acknowledged date, the estimated delivery date, and the ship date, if you click the more drop down here, it opens up the header menu. And here you can see details about the order, the salesperson, billing and shipping addresses, general address, phone numbers, contact information, and those types of things. If an order is related to anything, there'll be a link up here in the little ellipsis icon in the top right corner. If you click on the links, you can see that this order 1745705 used to be quote number 291238. If you click on that hyperlink, it'll take you to the quote now, and you can see what was originally on the quote, who entered it, what date it was, and who the customer was if you're not using your main customer. Again, links through the ellipsis. If you click on the links now, this quote is related to this order, so it has a link to the order. And now we're back to the order screen. Quote maintenance, I'm going to cover later in the video. Documents, there's a document section here. And within the document section, we have several different folders, including the main group folder, which is where you can find the web user manual if you ever have any questions or need to refer to any documentation. The user manual is available in the documents section for everybody. Now, there's different folders for different customers. So this being an MBS branch location, they have things that are related strictly to them. But the installation instructions are all the same. The products literature tab is all the same. General knowledge documents are all the same. Price books may or may not be different depending on what type of a customer you are. The order history and purchase history are reports you can run based upon dates, start date, end date, customers, orders, parts, or options. You have some flexibility there to pull some data based on your previous purchases. And again, the setup menu, I'm going to cover a few of these items at the end of the video. Next thing we're going to review is creating a quote, putting some different parts and options on that quote, and then going over the specialty parts, which include the opening designer parts. So I'm going to go back to the dashboard by clicking the Polaris logo and then create quote up here at the top right. I'm going to click this, and this is how you begin a new quote. To create a new quote, you have to pick a customer that you want this quote to be for. In this case, I'm going to be using the Youngstown Modern Builders branch. And since they're a dealer, they have other end customers to pick from. If you're a direct account of Polaris, you won't have to pick a manufacturer's site. You'll just pick a customer. And we create a default customer for everybody for you. If you wanted additional customers set up, we're going to cover that at the end on how to do that. So from Youngstown's customers, I'm just going to pick cash sale. You can type into this customer field to search, or if you know the first few letters of it, it'll help you instead of navigating through the entire menu. Like this. You can just type in the first few letters and we'll select that customer. Once you've picked a customer, you can now set options or set information in the header. And the first thing we're going to do is add a customer reference or job name. You need to have this on every single quote. If you do not have a customer reference on your quote, the system will not allow you to upload it to convert it into an order. So we're going to call this Polaris Test 1. Quote contact is the name of the person that entered it. It's not necessary, but it's available if you wanted to use it. Same thing with quote comment or notes. Neither of these are required, but if you had information you wanted to pass along to Polaris, you could use this field here. If you put anything in quote comments or notes, at upload, that quote will go on hold because it has notes or comments that need to be read prior to scheduling for manufacture. So just be advised, if you do use this field, either of these fields, your quote that gets converted to an order will go on hold in our live system, and customer service will be reaching out to you or reviewing the notes based on what information is provided to determine if it impacts manufacturing or not. Sales drop down, you can pick a person that entered the order. Not necessary, but it defaults to the login. So since I'm logged in as Polaris support, that's why it says Polaris support in here as a salesperson. Billing address is pulled from your company setup, which we'll cover later. Shipping address, same thing. And then manufacturer shipping address. If there's alternate addresses that you want your product shipped to, they would be in here. So the only thing I really put in here was the customer reference. So now that we have all of our header information filled out, I'm just going to click add. And now this takes us into the line item entry portion of the platform. And all you do here is pick a category that you want to order parts from or products from, and then you pick a part. So here's all the available categories that this customer has available to them. In the case of this demonstration, I'm going to pick the Thermal Weld Plus double hung patio door, bay, bow, and garden category. And for a part, I'm going to pick a simple double hung. So once you have your category and your part selected, you just click add. This is where you can specify your quantity of this line item. It could be 1, it could be 100, it could be 2, 3, 4. There's no need to put multiple line items of the same item on a quote unless you want to itemize it that way. If you have 5 windows that are all the same size, you can simply put in one line item with a quantity of 5. As long as the sizes and the options are the same on those 5 windows, you can simplify your order entry by changing the quantity here. I want you to note also, underneath the image of the window is an information box. And we populate this information box with many different messages for different parts based upon manufacturing restrictions, size limitations, weight. It's many different things. But as you can see, since we haven't entered a width or a height yet, the system is warning you that your width of 0 is below the minimum of 14.5 and your height of 0 is below the minimum of 22.5. However, if we put in a width and then we put in a height, once you leave those fields, those warnings go away. Now we're at line item comment. This is just like a quote comment or a quote note, except this note or comment would be on the line item itself, not on the header of the order or the quote. Line item comments will also throw your orders on hold after upload, so be very cognizant of that. Now that we have our quantity, our width, and our height selected for our part, now it's simply a matter of running through the options, which are all these questions, and providing answers to those questions. So do you want your opening to be, or you want your window to be hold to size or opening size? Hold to size is exact frame measurements will make it exactly 30 by 53. Or do you want an opening size where we would cut back? Generally, everybody orders hold to size. So I'm just going to leave it at that. Do you want head expander, yes or no? Let me back up a step. If you have non-whole number values for widths and heights, you can use decimals and it'll convert your decimal to a fraction, or you can use fractions. The system will accept either one. I just failed to mention that earlier. So head expander, yes or no? What color do you want the window to be? Do you want wood grain, exterior laminate, exterior paint? Here's all the different paint colors. I'm not going to make this one painted. Screen type, aluminum screen frame or flex screen, full or half screen, entirely up to you, depending on what your customer wants. What kind of mesh you want the screen to be made with. You can have it in aluminum, fiberglass, better view, or pet mesh. Oriole or cottage configuration. If you select this, you'll have to tell us how much of the top sash or left sash in the case of a slider you want this to be at, or you can give us a custom meeting rail location. That's what the CMR stands for. From the top left, from the top of the frame or the left side of the frame for a slider. We're going to make this one equal, so I'm not going to select anything with that Oriole option. Glass family. Here's all the different glass families you can pick from for this customer. Oops. Going to leave that. Glass options. If you want tinted glass, obscure glass, rain glass, you can select that here. If you pick any of these top options, it's going to select that option for both sashes. However, if you wanted one sash to be different from the other, you can select custom glass by sash. And once you do that, you're going to get a new question visible to you here where top sash glass, say top sash is going to be clear, but the bottom sash is going to be obscure. So now the little letter designations up in the top left and bottom left corners of these sashes has changed. CLS for clear in the top, OBS for obscure in the bottom. Tempered, if you want the glass to be tempered or not. This works the same way as the glass options. You can temper the entire unit, which would be both pieces of glass in top and bottom sash, or you can custom temper by sash. If you only want the bottom sash to be tempered, you can select custom temper by sash, temper the bottom by populating that checkbox with a check, and it'll be tempered obscure in the bottom of this window. Double strength glass, if you want double strength glass, in the case of this unit, the top sash could be made double strength, but due to the size, it will default to single strength. You could select double strength glass and it would make the top sash double strength. Since this is tempered and obscure on the bottom, you can't get tempered glass or obscure glass in single strength, so the bottom sash is already going to be double strength. You wouldn't even have to pick that option. That just happens automatically when you select those obscure and tempered options. Grids work the same way as glass options and tempering. You can do grids in the entire window by just selecting contour, pick a pattern, and you'll see that the system then draws grids in both the top and bottom sash. If you did custom grids by sash, however, you now have two new questions that pop up for top grids and bottom grids. So we're going to say contour single prairie in the top and no grids in the bottom. Again, you can do grids per sash by choosing the custom grids by sash option. Stainless spacer, if you'd want that, you could check that box here. Window opening control device, reinforcement, If you want the top sash pinned, you can select that here. If you wanted foam filled frames, you can select that option. Trim groove cover, glass breakage warranty, we want that, we'll say. And then the very last field here is room location. We added this several years ago because a lot of customers were entering room locations as line item comments and all their orders were going on hold for those. So we put some pre-built room locations in here for you. And if you pick a room location from the list here, this room location will appear on the shipping labels on the outside of the wrapping of your windows. So if you have a whole house job and you have 14 windows, if you give them unique room locations, the guys will know where to carry the windows to in the house to be dropped in for the new window job. If you have a room location that doesn't meet any of these pre-built options that we have for you, you can choose custom room location, and then you can type in whatever you want, and that too will also appear on the shipping labels on the outside of the packaging. So we're going to say this is southeast, first floor, window 1. So now that'll appear on your packaging. So that completes the entire option structure for this Thermal Weld Plus double hung window. So once you're done, you can click add and it'll add that item to the quote. You have some view options that are detailed below this image. By default, it's always inside looking out. But if you wanted to view the outside, you could click outside here. Now you're viewing the outside, or if you wanted to view both, you can click both. And it'll show you an image of the inside on the left and the outside on the right. You also have a couple options across the top here. Other than preview, you have an options list, which will show you all the options you have picked for this window. And if you wanted to see pricing breakdowns per line item, you can see all that here. So we'll go back to preview. And then since we're done with this line item, I'm just going to hit add. And now we've added our first line item to our quote. Here's our custom room location in the option structure. And that also appears on the printed out acknowledgement or quote report when you render that and view it. So you can see here, here's our custom room location. To add another line item, you just do the same thing all over again. Pick a category, pick a part, add, put in your width and height, and go through the options all over again. If there's any required questions like that one was here, where lock type requires an answer, it won't let you finish the option structure until you pick an option. So if I wouldn't have picked that Thermal Weld Plus lock, it would not have let us move on to the rest of the option structure. I'll do another one. So I'll do another one so you can see that. Just go through the options here. Thermal Weld Plus lock, lock finish upgrade, foam fill. See how foam fill and lifetime glass breakage are checked here for you? That's what's known as a carry down option. And it remembered what you selected for those items on the line item 1, and it's carrying those options forward for you, assuming that you're going to want those options on everything on this order. If you don't want them, you can simply uncheck them and they won't be on the window. Say this is a kitchen window. and add this. So let's add another slider. So this one's going to be 60 by 30. And as you can see here, it's asking for a lock type, and it tells you that it's required, and it has a little orange flag here, which denotes something that you have to provide an answer to. So we just answer that question, and then it opens up the rest of the option structure. We can move on and finish the order, or the line item for the order. Once you have some line items entered, you can manipulate them or change them around. You have some button functionality at the line item level, one of which is copy. This is a copy. It'll take this line item and copy it down to another line item with the exact same options and sizes. You can move a line item up or down with the arrows here. If you wanted the slider to be the first line item on the order, you could move it with the arrow. If you wanted to move that down. And then if you wanted to delete a line item entirely, you can hit the trash can icon here. Are you sure you want to delete this line item? Yes. And now the line item will be gone. Just with functionality, buttons are living on the line items. They also live on the entire quote up here at the top right. You have some options for printing, which renders PDF versions of the reports that are available to you, which are quote report, quote without pricing, quote without line item pricing, quote list price, quote selling price, quote accounting, which is a report that'll show you your price and the list price and what your cost is versus list. And then if you want it, there's a new report here that we developed called quote selling with no list. It'll show the selling report, but not have the list price on there. This quote selling report has the list price. This one does not. So whichever one of these you select, it renders it to a PDF through your browser, and then you can open it up through here. I'm using Microsoft Edge. Google Chrome and Microsoft Edge are the preferred browsers for the FeneVision web platform. They'll work with Firefox, they'll work with Opera, they'll work with some other browsers, but this is what the manufacturer recommends for best optimal performance in this platform. Next to the print icon, you have a download function. You can download this to a Word document, to an Excel document, to a comma separated values file, or to XML. There's another option here for global option changes. I'll demonstrate that functionality here shortly. If you wanted to copy this quote to a new quote and make an entire exact copy of it, you can select the copy function here, and it'll ask you, do you want to copy this quote? You can say yes or no. And then if you want to delete the entire quote, just like you can delete a line item, you could also delete the entire quote by clicking the trash can icon here. I'm going to take the grids out of this window. Grids. And I'm going to demonstrate the global option change functionality. So if you have a job that you're quoting two different ways, and the customer wants to see it as white, interior, exterior, but then they also wanted to see the exact same windows, but with a wood grain interior and a painted exterior, you can accomplish that in a two-step process. The first step would be to copy the quote to a new quote. So I'm going to go up here and I'm going to copy this, say yes. So quote 291956 is the one we're working on now. The system's going to copy everything, and now it's moved us to 291967. I'm going to add my job reference to this, Polaris test 2, save that. So now from the dashboard, when we go down to our open quotes, we can see that we have two different quote numbers here. So this was our original. This is the one we're going to global option change to make wood grain interior and painted or laminated exterior. So to do global option changes, you simply click the global option change icon up here. And now you have to pick which question you want to change the answer to. So the first one we're going to do is not bottom tempered. It's going to be wood grain. The old option was none. The new option is going to be cherry. And then you can add that change. Now it looks like it succeeded because it shows you up here that these items will be saved. But if there was something wrong, it would list it down here at the bottom where you have something that needs to be resolved. So the next question we want to change the answer to, or the option to, was exterior paint. We didn't have exterior paint on the old one. So now we're going to say we want these windows to be midnight black on the outside. Add change. So now you can see both the double hung and the slider have new options of full screen, midnight black, and cherry. Painted windows all get full screens, so you can't get a half screen. That's why it says the old option half screen is here, but the new option full screen has been inserted. That's just, we can't do half screens on painted windows. So now that we've made these changes, I'm going to click save. It's going to process those options changes, and now you can see the images of these windows now show the cherry wood grain. And if we click on one of the line items, there's your cherry wood grain on the interior. And if we go to view outside, there's your black. If you wanted to view both, again, click the both, and you can see them side by side. Hit save, it'll take us back to the quote entry screen. And that's a very simple overview of what global option changes can do for you. The next thing we're going to cover is the specialty part review. And we're going to go over how to use Opening Designer to make mold units. Go back to our quote. And we'll just use test one as the example. Opening Designer is a function of the software which allows you to take an entire opening, split it into sections, and then drop different parts or the same parts into those sections to create several windows mold together to fill an entire opening. So the Opening Designer parts live in all the different categories that you have available to you here, but it's just its own part. So in the part dropdown, Opening Designer in Thermal Weld Plus is right here at the top underneath the double hung. So I'm going to pick that part, click Add. And this is where we have to tell the software what our total opening width and height is and which mold unit this is for this quote. So we're going to leave the quantity at 1. We're going to say the width on this opening is 82 inches wide and the height is 60 inches tall. Line item comment field just like in the other ones. The factory maul or unassembled maul, you have an option of us mauling it together for you, or we can ship it to you prepped and ready to be mauled, unassembled, to save on space or weight, if that would be your preference. Either one are available. In this case, for this demonstration, I'm going to pick factory maul. And since this is the first maul on the order, I'm going to pick A. Once you answer that required question, the rest of the option structure opens up for you here. And now you can set the options that will be prevalent throughout the entire opening. Once you set options here, You can't change a majority of the options on the individual section parts. For specific options like grids and things like that, you can, but you can't have a white window and a tan window mulled together in the same opening. Not that anybody would do that, but if you did have a situation like that, you would have to order those line items separately. And then as a third line item, order a mullion for field application, which is its own part. And um, that can be covered with customer service if you would ever have a situation like that. You can call customer care and they'll be able to help you with something like that because they're all very familiar with how to use this platform too. So I'm not going to set any special options on this. I'm just going to say this is going to be for the great room, for the room location. And then since we changed our width and height here, you can see the little red square indicating the size of the entire opening, has now changed shape. Also, we have an information message down here that's very important. And it's telling you if you're going to combine side by side units with a stacked unit on top, like a twin double hung with a transom on top, you have to start with the side by side mulls first and do the vertical mulling first before you start doing the horizontal mulling. And I'll show you how to do that. So all of our options are set. This is what we want. So now we're just going to hit the next button up here at the top. And now here's our overall options. And now here's our section options. And the section 1 has the orange flag by it, which means there's input required. So we'll use my example earlier. We're going to say we're going to do a twin double hung with a transom on top. So we're going to split this into different sections. These two icons here underneath the part dropdown tell you side by side split or stack split. This is where you create your sections. So we're going to do our side by side split first, since we're going to have something stacked on top. We're going to say split it evenly into 2 sections or 3 sections or 4 sections, whatever you would want. 2 sections. And then for your split part, you can use a factory standard mullion, which is the 0 mull, just the vinyl strips between the seams of the frames. Or you can do the structural mullion, which is the 1/2 inch wide aluminum with the vinyl strips on the outside to cover the aluminum seam. Structural is exactly what it sounds like. It provides more structure to the frames where the frames are joined together. Standard mullions are just basically seam covers. Since we picked factory mull here in our section, we have to keep that the same and pick the factory mull here. So we're going to use the standard mullion for this. Say okay. And now, as you can see, section 1 has become section 1 and 2. So now you have 2 sections to drop parts into and 2 flags across the top now. But within these sections, now I want also to have picture windows on top. So I'm going to create a stack split evenly into 2 sections with a standard mullion. And even though it says evenly, we can adjust this later. So we'll say okay here. And then we'll go over to section 3. You can click the illustration number or you can click the flags at the top to switch sections. Either one works. And then we'll create another stack split here. So now our section 1 has now become sections 1, 2, 3, and 4. But we don't want this to be even. We don't want this one to be even. We want the double hungs on the bottom to be taller than the transoms on the top. So what we have to do is edit our section. So we pick the section we want to edit, and it tells you what the size of that section is right here. Then you can simply click the edit button. And instead of our height being 30 inches, we are going to say our height is only going to be 12 inches. And if this wasn't a whole number, you can do decimals or fractions again here. System will accept both, but it'll convert everything to fractions. And then just simply click Update. Now that we've updated section 3 to be 12 inches, we have to do the same thing with section 4. So I'm going to grab section 4, edit, 12 inches, update. So now that everything matches. So if you have the same parts with the same options going into multiple openings, there's a tool that you can use called the multi-select tool. If you click this little dots around the box icon, you can now pick sections that you want to drop the exact same parts into with the exact same options. You could fill this one by one, section by section, part by part. This is just an easy way if you're going to have, duplicate operations or duplicate parts in more than one section. You can do this all in one big operation. So since 3 and 4 are going to be the same, I'm just going to select 3 and 4 in the check boxes here, and then click my part. And this is going to get picture windows. Then you simply hit next. As you can see, it filled those two sections with picture windows. I'm going to hit next. And now we can specify our options for sections 3 and 4. Supreme 3 glass is fine, grids none. All the options are fine that we want for this demo. So we're going to hit next again. And it's taking us back to the multi-select option again, but I'm not going to do that for 1 and 2. I'm going to show you how to drop parts into these sections individually in this case. So we can just cancel out of our multi-select function, and it takes us back to the normal opening designer section selector. Now, I purposely made this mistake because section 5 is the vertical mullion separating these two sections, or this section from this section. Since this is a stacked unit with side-by-sides on the bottom, you have to use a structural mullion in the center. So I'm going to go to section 5 here by selecting the 5, and I'm going to, selected 3, I want 5. I'm going to change that factory standard mullion to a factory structural mullion. Now, since the structural mullion is wider, it's going to shrink sections 1, 2, 3, and 4 by a tiny bit. It's going to move from right to left down here and from left to right on this side. So now if you go back to your section 3, instead of that being 41 inches, it's now 40 3/4. So it took a quarter inch of the entire half inch of the mall and downsized section 3. And then it did the same thing in section 4, because you can see now your section size is 40 3/4 by 12. So since 3 and 4 already have parts dropped into them, the orange flags have gone away. What we have to do now to finish this is clear the other 2 flags. So I'm going to select section 1. And again, you can click down here, or you can use these numbers. And in section 1, we're going to pick a part, and that part is going to be the 7420 double hung, which is right here at the top. It's already sized for us because we told the platform what our size was of our entire opening, and then by creating the sections, it's automatically sizing everything equally. So I've dropped my window into that section. We can set options on this window that can't be set across the opening. For instance, if you wanted glass options to be different in this one than it would be in section 2, you could select those here. Same thing with grids, same thing with tempering, same thing with the window operating control device reinforcement. Any of these options you can pick here can be changed at the section part level. So now we just have to fill section 2. As you can see up here at the top right, the add button is grayed out. Until you fill all these sections, it's not going to let you add this. So we'll put another double hung in there. So now it's created that. Now our opening is filled. All of our sections have parts in them, no orange flags across the top. And now the add button is lit up and we can add this to the quote. So this is going to take a minute to process because it's building bills of materials for all 4 of these windows, plus the 3 mullions that are going to go into the entire opening unit. Okay, it's built our opening designer part for us at our 82 by 60 dimensions. It's priced everything, and now it has the mold unit displayed as a thumbnail image here. But in the reports, when you click the print icon, mold units are broken down into their own standalone images on the reports that you can print. So if we go to this quote report now and we go to the last page of this, here's our mold unit in reporting form. It's line item 3, which is the opening designer part, but then line item 3.1, 3.2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 are the section parts and the mullions. And as you can see on the very last page of this, it draws it up to scale for you so you can see what the dimensions are of each part within the opening, and then the mullions are at the seams. I'm going to add another opening designer part real quick and show you how you can fix things if you make a mistake. It's going to be our second mold unit, so this will be B. Hit next. Go to section 1. Create my splits. We'll split this into 4 with standard mullions. Say OK. And then in section 1, I'm going to create a stack with a standard mullion. And section 5, we'll do the same thing. If you get to this point and you realize that your sections are wrong somehow, or you made a mistake and you want to start over, instead of canceling out of the line item, all you have to do is go back to the overall up here at the top and click this reset designer little circle icon. If you click that, it's going to ask if you want to reset it. You say yes, and it'll wipe everything out and let you redo your sections. That's a helpful little tool. Now I'm going to cancel this because I don't want this on the quote. And there's our quote for the 3 line items. In Polaris's version of FeneVision, there are several different opening designer parts in each category. There's a Dynaweld opening designer, Thermal Weld Plus, Thermal Weld Select, casements. They all have their opening designer parts. But patio doors have to be built differently and have a separate patio door opening designer part. So this first one that you see at the top is just the window opening designer. But if you come down here to towards the bottom, you can see the patio door opening designer, which is right here, 7480 PD opening. This only has patio door parts and structural mullions with side lights and transom parts for patio doors that you will not find in the window opening designer. That's important to know. And there's also a separate video that customer care can provide to you that goes over only patio door opening designer and how to use it properly. The next thing we're going to do is convert a quote to an order. I said earlier in this video that I would show you what the quote maintenance function does from the menu. Quote maintenance is where you go to maintain your quotes and also to turn them into orders. Now you can make changes to quotes from the dashboard screen or from quote maintenance, but in quote maintenance, you can edit, print, copy, and delete entire quotes directly through these function buttons on the far right. Whereas on the dashboard, your quotes, you don't have any button functionality. You'd have to click on the individual quote to do whatever changes you would need to do. So menu, quote maintenance, and let's pretend I want to turn this Polaris test 1 into an order. All you have to do here is simply check mark the little box to the left of the quote number, scroll down to the bottom of the screen, and upload selected quotes to manufacturer. When you have what you can select 5 quotes, 10 quotes, or 1 quote, it doesn't matter. It'll upload everything that you have this little check mark in the box for. So we have the one selected. I'm going to click the upload button and you're going to get this pop-up warning. This is your final chance to make sure everything's correct before you send it to us and we drop it into a schedule and send it to the floor. It's just saying, you're about to turn this quote into an order. You're responsible for the content of each order. Do you want to proceed? This is the last, basically, are you sure button before you turn something into an order. Obviously, we're not going to turn this into an order because it's just a test. So I'm going to say no. And it's now canceled the upload operation. If you do upload something successfully, you'll get a return message that looks similar to the message that just popped up, but it'll say something to the effect of, quote 291956 has been converted to order 10-174, blah, 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 successfully. And on your dashboard screen, that quote 291956 will no longer be down here at the bottom. It's going to be up here at the top with showing your most recent order number. The last thing on the dashboard I wanted to cover is at the very, very bottom of everybody's dashboard is some information that we change frequently and is just messages for customers. And in this case, this is the Thanksgiving closure message for this year, along with an email change for customer care. It's reminding you that the painted Windows screens will be full screens. And we have a small abbreviated lead time chart here saying if you wanted your order by the end of the 2025 calendar year, here's the dates that we would need to receive those. Generally, this is a full lead time chart showing the lead time for everything, and it will revert back to that after the new year. The last thing I want to review today is some of the setup functionality that's available to administrator users. And that's, again, accessed through the menu. So if you go to your icon to open the menu, first thing we're going to do is set up a customer. Okay, I had to switch customers here, so I didn't want to create a new customer on the live side. So in our test account here, I'm going to go to the Setup Customers menu. And this is where you can add a customer that you could set the parameters for. So to add a new customer, simply all you do is from the Setup Customer menu, click the Add Customer button here at the top right, name it. You can name this whatever you want. Click Add. Now you can set some changes and some things to be different from your main account that we set up for you, or your main customer that we set up for you, in terms of pricing, in terms of tax, sales tax assessed, billing addresses. We don't recommend creating a new customer for every job that you quote through the system. However, if you want to provide a certain markup or margin that you want to sell at, you could create a customer called, homeowner sales or something like that. And in this financial drop down here, you can set your pricing method to be discount from list, markup from cost, or gross profit margin based upon your business model. And if you wanted to mark up everything from cost 100%, you could simply select that as your pricing method. And then you have to go through all of the categories here that you sell products in and change that markup percentage to 100. Now, this is a test account, so some of these categories you won't see or have access to, or obsolete, or they'll be obsolete in the case of this ultra world category here. But every category that you have options for, you have to change the markup percentage or it won't price them correctly for you. In addition to financial, within the financial, if you didn't want to charge tax, you could leave that at 0. But if you are going to charge sales tax to your customer, you can put in your tax percentage here as a whole number and then title the tax however you would want it to be. So 1.75 is Ohio, Mahoning County. There's a certain number of characters that this will accept. If you exceed that number of characters, it'll just stop. So it won't let you put the whole thing in. So we'll just call this Ohio Mahoning sales tax because it wouldn't let me put in Mahoning County sales tax. Too many characters. Billing address. If you wanted to put the homeowner's address in here, you could do that. This changes it not at the quote level, but at the customer level. So everything you do here will be applied to every single quote that you put under the training video customer. Customer that we're setting up here. So we'll say this is Polaris test. You don't have to fill all these fields out, but you can put as much information or as little information in as you want here. Just remember that this affects everything that you do under this customer. So shipping address by default is always checked as same as billing address, but if you uncheck that, it gives you all the fields to fill out for shipping. Once you've made all your changes, you can hit save. And now if we go back to the dashboard and we create a new quote, we now have a new customer to quote under. Another administrator setup function is under the setup menu. We just did customers. Terms and ship via are more for people, dealers that offer terms and shipping methods. You can set these up if you like. We have some examples set up in here. These can be applied to the quote. Same thing with ship via methods, install, pickup, Polaris windows. These test accounts have some stuff that might not be relevant. Set up pricing. If you wanted to do tables or schedules for your pricing, you could do that. That's advanced setup. I would recommend contacting customer care if you wanted to get into any kind of pricing advanced setup. And they can put you in touch with one of us on the FeneVision support team, and we will schedule a Zoom meeting to go over that with you in depth based upon your individual needs. Set up company, exactly what it sounds like. You can set all your company information up here. We do this by default for you when you're first set up, but if there's anything you wanted to change, if your address changed or your phone number changed, you could change that here in the setup company simply by clicking edit, making your changes, and then hitting save. And then the last thing I wanted to do is go over setting up a user. From the setup menu, set up users. You can choose to make this a company user or a customer user. If you make them a customer user, that means they're only going to be able to create quotes under that specific customer. Whereas if they're a company user, they can create quotes and under any customer of the company. So to create a new a new user, you simply click the Add User button, give them a username, give them permissions. They can be an administrator or they can be a standard user. Administrators have all these permissions that you see at the bottom granted to them automatically, whereas standard users, you can pick and choose what permissions to give them. You have to assign them a password, and then first name, last name, email address. So say we're going to make this a standard user, but we don't want them to be able to modify quote pricing, just take that permission away. Can't modify taxes, and I don't want them to be able to see my cost. So with those permissions removed, that user would not be able to do these things. So once you're done, you simply hit save, and you've created a new user now at this point. And here it is right here, the bottom of the user list. I'd like to thank you for taking the time to watch this video today and learn some more about FeneVision Web and how to use it. In closing, all of the customer care folks have been through training with me and are very, very familiar with our FeneVision Web online ordering platform. We've been using this for several years now, and they're all very, very good at helping with this. If you run into a situation that they can't help you with, they will put you in touch with one of us on the FeneVision support team, and we will try to get your questions answered and any issues you might have resolved. This has been FeneVision Web and how to use it, and have a great day.